I mentioned last night, I think it was in the Q&A session, that my daughter, who's now 11, is a cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 3 years old. Okay? She's doing great, by the way. People always ask me if I forget to say, how's she doing? She's doing great. She's been more than 6 years, almost 6 years off treatment. Okay, she's doing fantastic. But going through her treatment process, which was about 2.5 years long, several things hit me on a spiritual level. And I shared a little bit of that last night in the Q&A session. But this piece on anticipation of heavenly glory hit me really, really, really hard. As her father, as a parent, what's our number one job for our children? Get them to heaven. Get them to heaven. And I remember wrestling with this whole mess, being down at the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics with my daughter in a bed, me trying to get some work done, trying to understand what all was going on, a little bit asking the question why, more so just saying, God, give me the grace to endure, and reflecting on my role as dad. And thinking, you know what, God? You gave me this wonderful blessing, but she's not my daughter so much as she is yours. It's my job to get her to heaven. I'm a steward of her soul here. You've entrusted her to me to get her back to you. God, I'm giving her back to you. I'm out of control here. I can't control her cancer. I can't treat her cancer. I can't cure her of her cancer. You're going to have to do it. And I gave her back to him. She's yours anyway, Lord. You're in complete control anyway. Whatever you choose, thy will be done. I'm not going to fight you. So I let her go. And he let her live. But she's going to die again, so am I. So are you. And we need to be ready for this. But here's the biggest piece that got me through 2.5 years of intense suffering, caring for my daughter, having to take needles at home and hold her down while she's screaming, because she knows what's going to happen. I would hold her down and my wife would inject her with her chemotherapy at home, having to do this a dozen times. What got me through was knowing this, that I'm not made for this world. My daughter's not made for this world. You're not made for this world. Where are we made for? Heaven. That nothing in this life is going to satisfy me or you or my daughter, because you and I, we're made for perfect goodness, perfect truth, perfect beauty, perfect love, perfect health, eternal life. That's what we're made for. And here's how I know, because when you and I don't get perfect goodness and perfect truth, when somebody lies to us and manipulates us, we don't like that. When we're not getting perfect love and we're alone and we're empty, we don't like that. When we're not in perfect health, nobody likes that. And what do? What happens deep in our soul when we're experiencing a lack of perfect goodness and truth and beauty and love and health? Something deep inside our soul revolts against it and says, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. We know in our soul that we're not made just for this world. We're made for heaven. We're made for perfect goodness and truth and beauty and love. And I got to share this piece with you too. My 3-year-old daughter inspired me so much because she would walk into appointment after appointment. She would get lumbar punctures. She would get chemo. She'd be knocked out. They'd put her to sleep. They'd put chemotherapy into her spine to protect her nervous system, to make sure it didn't get in there. Okay, blood draw after blood draw, chemo treatment after chemo treatment. She went through an incredible experience, okay? And I don't mean that in a good positive way, okay? Very challenging experience. But she would go into every appointment holding her daddy's hand. Why? Because she trusted her dad. She knew that she didn't understand the whole thing, but she knew that daddy wouldn't let her go through something if it wasn't for the best, if it wasn't necessary. And what I learned from her is how I need to go through life. I need to do a better job of taking my daddy's hand and trusting throughout all the struggles of life, no matter what. Because ultimately, I'm made for heaven. And this should remind us all the time. This is a foretaste of heaven. The bonding that we have with Jesus in the Eucharist every time we receive is a foretaste of what we'll experience in heaven. That perfect bonding with the Lord, but not just with the Lord, also with each other. Yeah. Beautiful stuff from the Eucharist here, my friends. Every time this Eucharistic mystery is celebrated, the work of our redemption is carried on, and we break the one bread that provides the medicine of immortality, the antidote for death, and the food that makes us live forever in Jesus Christ. Right? This is the manna that will get us through these 40 years of wandering in the desert when we're made for the promised land and we're on the way.